Hey everyone, we're gonna learn to solve this rational equation. So let's start by looking at the denominators and finding what the least common denominator of those are. So we'll list the denominators. We have x minus 6, x minus 2, and then we can factor x squared minus 8x plus 12 into x minus 6, x minus 2. Um, Now if we look at what the missing factors of each one are, the x minus 6 is missing a factor of x minus 2, and the x minus 2 is missing a factor of x minus 6, and this one has both factors. What that means is that the least common denominator is x minus 6 and x minus 2. So before we go any further, let's rewrite the original equation as 1 over x minus 6 plus x over x minus 2 equal to 4 over x minus 6 x minus 2. So now let's multiply all the parts by the least common denominator. So we're going to do, let's move it down here. We're going to do 1 over x minus 6, and we're going to multiply that by the least common denominator. So that's x minus 6, x minus 2. Since the x minus 6 are in common, we'll cancel those out. Plus x minus 2. So again, we'll multiply that by x minus 6, x minus 2. And in this case, the x minus 2's cancel out. And then equal to 4 x minus 6, x minus 2. And if I multiply by x minus 6 and x minus 2, you can guess what's going to happen. Both the x minus 6 and the x minus 2 cancel out. So where does that leave us? Well, we have the 1 and the x minus 2, so you can multiply that out to x minus 2, plus we have x, the x minus 2 canceled out, but you still have the x minus 6, equal to 4. Let's simplify the left side a little bit. So that gives us x minus 2 plus x squared minus 6x equal to 4. Let's combine the x and the minus 6x. Before we do that, let's move the x squared into the front so we can write it in standard form. So x squared minus 5x minus 2 equal to 4. So now I'm asking myself what value of x would give me 4, but I could be an easier problem if I make the right side, instead of a 4, if we make it to a 0. So let's subtract 4 from both sides. That cancels out, and we have x squared minus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. And then let's see if we can factor that. What multiplies to negative 6 and adds to negative 5? Well, it's probably x minus 6 and x plus 1. So that means the solution is going to be x equal to positive 6 and x equal to negative 1. One thing to notice though, when we think about the excluded values, what values of x would make any of the denominators 0? If we look at the x minus 6, what value of x would make x minus 6 0? Well, in this case, the excluded value would be 6. So we can't consider 6 as a solution, which means in our final answer 6 is an excluded value. So the only answer that would make that equation true is -1. And we're done.